So I'm ready for you, bitches. Take me, test me.
So if someone's stuck for a gift for you in the future for a big milestone, then stuffed penis would work.
Man, I would be so happy with this. Someone bought me a 5.5 foot whale penis. I'd be so happy with that.
Cool, and here we are, episode 21, the world's most bullish podcast, brought to you, as always, by Sir Neverlook, Dr. Evil 10%, Mr. All In, and she's not here, surprise, surprise, Mrs. No Show. This is a special one, isn't it, guys? Episode 21, classic number in Bitcoin, and as always, packed agenda.
Yeah.
We always have a special one.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so weird because it's obviously like being number 21. That is obviously one of the big numbers in Bitcoin. But today, 7th of September, 2021.
Correct.
This is the first day or the first time ever that Bitcoin is legal tender in a country. This is today. It got rolled out in El Salvador. Everyone's app started working. They had a free $30 worth of Bitcoin in their wallets. 6 or 7 million people all now got onboarded into Bitcoin. So it's so weird that like today is our 21st episode, and this is literally the day. We didn't even engineer it to coincide with this, but it literally episode 21 coincided with probably one of the biggest days in Bitcoin, as a milestone of, wow, this is actually a government adopting it. We never really expected them to do this, but yeah, they have.
Absolutely. Well, it's actually one of the things that I was going to bring up on the agenda as well, in terms of countries adopting Bitcoin. So it's there. It was foreseen, but we never actually knew who was going to take the plunge first. Of course, we always think that there are some countries that are secretly mining Bitcoin and putting it on their balance sheets, but we still don't know because they won't tell you until, of course, after the fact. But here we are. So happy B-Day, everyone. For those that are watching on YouTube, we're here. And let's toast to El Salvador. B-Day, 7th of September, 2021.
Yeah, it seemed to have had a bit of a rocky rollout, which is probably largely expected because it's a government project at the end of the day. So I think everyone jumped on to download the app today. Went into the app stores, but at some point they had to pull it because it was just too much traffic and they couldn't take the kind of the scale of what was going on. Suddenly 6 million people just all wanted the app and wanted to sign up, and it's obviously got the KYC AML type checks in it as you're going through. Even though it's Bitcoin, this is government Bitcoin, remember, and obviously you have to identify yourself to then know that, oh yeah, you're the person that gets the free $30, so that you can't just sign up 100 times and get lots and lots of $30 payments. But
really?
I know, yeah. So I think already I've seen articles written on it going, oh yeah, look, Bitcoin doesn't scale. It's like, no, that's nothing to do with Bitcoin. That's an app built on Bitcoin that didn't scale. And it will scale. And I think in reality, it doesn't need to scale to be able to do 6 million downloads a day, because no one's going to use that app outside of El Salvador. So once people got it, they got it. Yeah. And they'll just use it day to day then, and they'll probably be fine. But I still foresee problems down the line. They'll probably lose payments. They'll have payments reversed or whatever, because they're probably not completely using Lightning and Bitcoin properly. So there'll be problems with it. And it almost seems like as well, someone really wanted to make a statement today because someone dumped a shit ton of Bitcoin, and we had a 10K candle downwards just as the El Salvador like the app went live, almost like to the minute the app goes live, someone dumps a shit ton of Bitcoin. We go from 52K down to 42K in the space for about 5 minutes. It's just this red dildo candle going straight fucking down. We instantly bounced 5K back up, so we're back to about 47K now. So in reality, all that's happened is we probably undone the last week. Over the last week, we kind of went from 47 to 52, and then we just freaking 10K candle backwards. And straight away, then a load of articles get written on, oh, this is why El Salvador shouldn't adopt Bitcoin. It's dropped 17% in one day. This is not a store of value. You're like, this is just, it's a gift from the gods, you know, just someone did this. I reckon they'd already written the article and they went, dump it. And they just did it. Now the article is valid and they just pushed the article. You're like, oh, this is so.
Just makes the story sound better, doesn't it? You know,
yeah,
on the
especially
day.
when it happens on the day. Like, you didn't have, like, this was going to happen anyway. We're going to have a 20-30% dip in a single day on Bitcoin. It's always going to happen. But it's just to do it on the day, you know, on the 7th of September, when you know all the eyes are looking at El Salvador. That's the day we do it. And it's just obviously someone did it. And it's either a shitcoiner or some banker somewhere. He's chuckling to himself right now, feeling very happy. But it doesn't change anything. It's just
I actually have to have a small confession, actually, because today, so never looked, because I actually bought some Bitcoin. I bought £30 worth of Bitcoin to celebrate, obviously, B-Day. So, yeah, I had a look at the price.
£30? I thought it'd be $30.
No, I kept it in sterling, but yeah, $30 or, well, £30.
I'm just trying to set it up, but it's been an absolute faff to do through Revolut, and it's £21.76. So I'm just about to do that because I haven't done it today.
Oh, okay.
What do you do about your DCA, Darnell? Because don't you have to look when you do that, because Coinbase Pro it doesn't allow you to do it automatically. So don't you see the price when you do that?
Yeah. See, I haven't been DCAing whilst doing property over the last couple of months. So once I'm finished, which is very, very close, actually. So electricians, I'm looking at my board right now. Electricians going in on the weekend, the weekend after, and then the plumber the couple of days afterwards. So we're all finished. So I'm actually going to be doing a large dump in the next couple of weeks or so. So that'll be interesting. And I know for sure, because I feel it, and obviously I'm still, doing loads of research and still in tune with what's going on in the community. The rocket's refueling, and of course, when I've got the powder, it's just going to go whoosh. So I'm just going to have to hold it on probably Coinbase Pro until everybody FOMOs in and then dumps. We get that retraction, and then that money that would have been great right now to put in is ready to be put in when we probably retract back for a little bit.
Oh, there we go. I've got my money. Put my £21.76 into Bitcoin.
Yeah, nice. I did the same thing. I bought my 21, which again, I love the fact that $30 is also £21. So I'm like, oh, okay, this feels nice buying £21 today.
Nice.
And but then I brought that. I put proof of work, put it on Twitter. Straight away, the plebs came and shamed me and went, why didn't you do £30? I'm like, okay, fine. I bought another £9 just to round up to 30.
Yeah, when you guys were just saying then 21, I was like, oh, should I have done 21? But yeah, I did 30.
Yeah. It's more sats. Like, it doesn't feel as nice. Like, buying £21 of Bitcoin just feels nice, especially on a nice historic day. Like, episode 21.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is finally legal tender in a country, and and buy £21 to celebrate. And weirdly, everyone out in El Salvador got £21 worth of Bitcoin. It's just nice.
Yeah. So I've got 0.00063 Bitcoin.
So you got more than me. You got. I brought pre-dump.
It's not like I got
robbed.
It's not like I got loads more, and it won't really matter.
0.00081 or something like that.
Yeah,
I should learn how to read it in Satoshis, but I'm just not used to that.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's fairly easy. It's I think I got 55,000 roughly, 55,000 Satoshis. I think you got 65, but then you've got 80 odd. But that's because you bought £30. So I don't know you probably would have had about the same as me. You probably would have had about 55 if you bought £21.
Yeah.
You just got to drop the zeros and just read it as a number at the end. They're confusing. Sometimes they drop off some of the last digits. They don't always give you the 8-digit number, which is annoying. They round it up. And then now you don't know what the number is. Because it looks like, I've got 8,000. It's like, no, you didn't. You got 80,000. They dropped the zero off.
Yeah.
So Yeah, we need to.
Yeah,
ideally, apps like that, they need to list it in Satoshis. So it's annoying.
Well, I think, if we do, when we do see things rocket up a bit, you'd expect it to move that way, because we have been in a period when Bitcoins are, I suppose, affordable, only just, and now we're kind of like that mid area where it's like, what, 35 grand, 34 grand. So it is getting out of reach of people. But when you do get towards 100K, that's when it is out of reach, unless it's an institution or someone who's got some serious cash, like the exceptions. So yeah, you're right. Looking at it, 63,000 Satoshi. So I need to read it that way, but it's just getting used to it.
Talking of which, though, as well, about getting out of reach, that's a house deposit for the majority of people, if not more. And so I think it certainly is becoming out of the reach of the majority of people to get a single Bitcoin. Although, of course, we know that if you get 0.28, then you'll be in the top percentile of people holding Bitcoin.
So is that 28,000 Bitcoin?
Yeah, 28,000. Okay.
See, I'd say definitely for the younger generation who are stuck, without being able to afford a house, it is kind of out of reach. As you said, it's quite rightly a house deposit. Whereas I'd say someone more around our age who's potentially already got the house, it is their kind of investment money, what they're trying to plan with their pension. It's not money which they can flitter away, but it's someone lining up how on earth they're going to be able to survive when the retirement age is, what's it now, 70, and my life expectancy is 83. So he's still got to deal with that 13 years of how on earth am I going to be able to afford to live?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think in reality, though, I think you really have to get Bitcoin and really be determined if you're going to get the one. Yeah, because even as you're getting older and you've been probably DCAing into some type of investment, whether it's savings, pension, or whatever, you'll probably amalgamate that kind of money. But most people they'd be terrified to put that much into a Bitcoin. And that's probably probably the biggest thing that's taking it out of people's reach, having a single coin, is because they probably only want to put a couple of grand in. And yeah, but if they do it now, if you put a couple of grand in, then this is why I think we need to get to Satoshis, because one Bitcoin, it's almost like denominating pounds, but our main denominator was 1 million. The fact that we actually have a pound and it's such a small amount of money is good, because it's like, well, how many pounds have you got? Like, well, you've definitely got more than one. Yeah. And it's not hard. It's the same as Satoshis. We need to move to Satoshis. And then someone can go, oh, well done. You've collected 1 million Satoshis. That should sound like an achievement, or 10 million. And essentially what we're saying is, if you manage to get 100 million Satoshis, then yeah, you have a full coin. But that's a huge number. That's like saying, have you got 100 million pounds? No, most people never get to that point.
It's also unfathomable for most people to actually think about how much that is as well. The brain just kind of stops because they're not used to that number as well.
We talked about this, I think, last week. It's one of my friends, I said buy Bitcoin, because he is down that anti kind of like government and fiat. I think he sees the problems, but he doesn't really understand what he can do about it. So I can't afford a Bitcoin. I said, you can buy sats, you can buy proportions of Bitcoins. I buy a proportion of a Bitcoin every week. It's my DCA, and it's a way to do it.
I think maybe that's something for the community as they continue to obviously talk about sats and talk about Bitcoin, is to get into people to think in sats as well. Yeah, because that's when it really helps, doesn't it? Rather than sats to pounds or US dollars, it's just sats.
Yeah, that's why if you use any of the Lightning wallets and any of the stores, they all list everything in sats. It's just sats is the standard. But the second you go to exchanges or anyone talks about the price of Bitcoin, we always talk about how much is 100 million Satoshis. And so it always gets back to, oh, I can't afford a Bitcoin because it's $50,000. It's like, that's just how much 100 million Satoshis are. It's almost an irrelevant thing. Like, how much is 200 million Satoshis? Yeah, it's double that price. We definitely can't afford that. But how much is a 100 millionth of a Satoshi? Oh, it's like a fraction of a penny. Can you afford a fraction of a penny? Well, of course you can. So, and I think that the number is 200,000, by the way. 200,000 Satoshis is the number to aim for. That is your allotment of Bitcoin. once you get to 200,000 Satoshis, that is hyper Bitcoinization. That's going to be average.
Yeah.
So anything above that.
So what's that
Yeah,
currently?
that's the word. That's the number, 200,000. I think it's 280,000.
So is that about 70 quid at the moment?
Did you just work it out? Yeah. Yeah, about that. Yeah. Between 70 and £100. Yeah. The price is obviously fluctuating hugely. Yeah. But basically, if you just put a couple of £100 in, you're done. That's it. That was your allocation. Because in the future, when Bitcoin 100x's, it's not going to be a couple of £100. That would have been tens of thousands of pounds. And that's going to be the average amount of wealth that someone has in their life, which is about what is correct today. So just get it now.
You know what also I thought about today with it being B-Day is everybody downloading the app. Do you remember that time when we went to Three Sisters and went go-karting?
Yeah.
If you just hold that, because there's going to be a proportion of people that lose their money and they'll lose their sats. So straight away, you'll be ahead. So it's like, as long as you just stay on the track, yeah. People are going to fall off that track. And that day when we went go-karting, it was raining, it was slippy. If you just held your nerve, didn't go fast, just went through, you're going to be in that top percentile and, you see your way through. And that's how I feel for the people in El Salvador as well. So just basically hodl, do nothing, don't be stupid, learn your seed phrases and keep going.
Don't listen to the FUD.
Yeah, and don't listen to the FUD, even though there's a lot out there. As I may have said in the group when we were chatting, when I was reading, it was all pretty negative in terms of, this is a risk for El Salvador. Nobody actually talked about the fact that they've got a choice between US dollars and obviously Bitcoin, because prior to that, they had the choice between the Salvadorian dollars, I think I forgot what they were called.
Was it peso?
Yeah, I wanted to say peso, yeah. And US dollars.
Well, I think what you're missing is the US dollar is very consistent.
Consistent on the way down.
Yeah, it'll devalue on average about 5% every year, but special years will get 22%. So you get 22% of your wealth wiped out, which I don't think a lot of people appreciate.
Yeah.
It is a stealth tax which no one understands because it's hidden by jargon such as quantitative easing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because just imagine if they actually did write a real article and actually went, oh yeah, these are the benefits, is that these El Salvadorans can now just on a day-to-day keep their money in their phone, and it's not going to get hit by inflation, and if anything, it's going to get hit by deflation. And this is an asset that's accruing value as opposed to losing it. Because what do all these people get paid in, and what are they funded by? They're funded by the US dollar. They would literally be throwing their own government and the Fed under the bus. So of course they have to just toe the line.
To be that person,
they have to support the US dollar. If anything, it's almost like unpatriotic if you don't support the US dollar. It's like, you're not American, and God damn it, I'm American. It's like, well, you support the US dollar then. It's got the United States in it. The Fed's a nice big picture of the American eagle, the bald eagle. It's like, it's American. The Fed is American. You're anti-patriotic if you don't support it. It's like, it's kind of genius.
Well, I saw something today. Some guy was promoting his book on LinkedIn, and it was Gaz, you commented on his FUD about Bitcoin, and basically he wrote some thing which he thought, I'll draw in some people around Bitcoin, create a bit of noise so people read my comments, and then the first comment was him promoting his book. And it's just like, I don't understand it. And I just went instantly, I'm going in my head, I'm going, you want me to buy your book about investing, but you do not understand Bitcoin nor have taken the time to understand Bitcoin. So something which is seen as one of the most successful assets over the last 10 years, you're not willing to take the time to understand and bash it, and you want me to buy your book. Why am I going to buy your book when you don't understand the investing market?
Yeah. I think it was on macro investing as well or something, which is like, if it's even in the same category as Bitcoin, right? If it was stocks or if it's trading, at least it's like, oh, okay, fine. It's like over here. Like, you don't need,
or a niche in terms of a vertical.
Yeah. But if you're like a macro investor, that basically means you look at 10, 20, 30 year cycles. Like Bitcoin and inflation and the money printer and the gold standard, that is macroeconomics. Yeah. And if he doesn't get that and doesn't realize that Bitcoin has come in and fixed it, then I hate to see what his book. I can almost guarantee the ending of his book is buy gold. It's all about to collapse. Yeah, you just Peter Schiff. That is entertaining.
But it's like he said
I give Schiff that for sure.
But Schiff possibly read about Bitcoin, either doesn't like it, so he's just a gold bug, or doesn't like the fact he's missed it. Whereas this guy,
I think he likes playing the heel as the bad guy.
He does. It'd be funny if he actually had a load of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But this guy I generally don't think he understood money, and he's advising people on how to invest. If you're looking at, I understand what the flaws of money, I'm going to look at all the different solutions, gold, Bitcoin, silver, whatever you want to look at. And if he didn't actually understand that, I just kind of go, well, what's the point in you actually writing a book? It's literally like a 2-year-old writing a book about quantum physics or something.
It just shows you small time as well, because one of the largest macro investors is Ray Dalio, who's changed his position on Bitcoin as well, who obviously talks about macro investments, and his all-weather fund is for all times. And he now believes that part of that should include Bitcoin. Case closed.
Yeah.
Don't buy his book.
Is it 10%?
I don't know what he's gone in at, but he might be along your lines.
Yeah, I think he is around there at the moment. I think he's between 5 and 10. That's his allocation. Yeah. Because and the thing is, like, if you have a huge portfolio like someone like he does, there's no point being like 100% in any asset. Like, essentially, he's made it, right? He has tens of billions. He just spreads it around, like 2 million in property, 2 billion in property, 2 billion in stocks, 2 billion in Bitcoin. He just finds 10 things and just spreads it, just in case like a 9/11 or some weird kind of craziness happens, and then an asset just gets wiped to zero. Like, you don't want to build up to tens of billions and then go back to zero. So which
is what happened to him, which is why he's so cautious not to do that again.
Yeah. But unfortunately, like what he's going to find is that 10%, he's fortunate because the 10% that he has in Bitcoin will end up replacing the rest of his stuff, and everything else is going nearly to zero. So as we're going, he's probably going to have to switch. And I'd imagine, unless he starts selling Bitcoin, then his allocation of 10% is going to keep getting bigger, because he came in about 6 months ago now, and the price of Bitcoin's already like probably about 50% up in that time. So unless he's selling to keep it under 10%, which I have a dangerous suspicion he might be, because especially if it's a hedge fund, then there's regulations around not having more than the 10% allocation of any asset in your hedge fund. That's why Cathie Wood of ARK Investment has to keep selling Bitcoin and Tesla, because they're not allowed more than 10%.
Yeah.
It's seen as reckless. You're not allowed to be reckless with other people's money.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because what else are they replacing that other, 80, 90% with? Shit.
It'd be funny if they just went, I know, when I have 10% of Bitcoin, then 10% of MicroStrategy, 10% of like Square. It's like 10% of this mining company mines Bitcoin. Like you could probably buy 10 assets now.
Coinbase.
Yeah, you could buy some coin. And so you could probably fudge it by having 100% kind of portfolio that is backed by Bitcoin. So as Bitcoin goes up, you still get the appreciation, because MicroStrategy pretty much goes up and down with the Bitcoin price.
Maybe there's an ETF there, boys, for us to look into and create.
Yeah, well, there's about a dozen applications into ETFs right now. They've all been refused up until this date.
Yeah, I was looking at that as well.
Yeah, apparently the market's manipulated, and that's why they won't allow a Bitcoin ETF. Just hilarious.
Really? It's not strange.
So go and have a look at the stock market, you morons. How manipulated is that?
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to say, you mean the stock market's a free open market that's balanced?
Yeah, and there's no insider information. Directors and politicians trading on shares. Like, come on, it happens every day. We all know it does. And they're like, no. It's we're protecting investors by not having an ETF on Bitcoin. You're like, you're just trying to ultimately what they're really trying to do there is they know full well that once Bitcoin has a proper ETF, is that what you can do then with your pension is get it into a Bitcoin asset. So then that opens up trillions of dollars worth of value that people that have had their, ultimately money, that large amounts of money as well, that is locked up until 65 or past 55 at least, you can actually now get Bitcoin appreciation from it once there's an ETF. You could actually just phone up your pensions company and go, I want to put at least an allocation, even if you don't put 100% in, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50% of your pension into a Bitcoin ETF, which tracks the price.
Yeah.
So that could be, that'll be the first thing I do. Like, I have some money tied up in a pension that I just want to get, and then I can just buy Bitcoin with it. I don't want custodial Bitcoin. That's come with an ETF, right?
Such an all-in thing to do. Of course you would. Of course you would.
How come you still got money tied up in a pension? I thought you would have tried to empty that.
You can't.
I have.
You can't.
I've tried. All they would do is go, we can put it in the highest risk out portfolio we have. I'm like, all right, all in, fucking highest risk we got. And they're like, okay, all we've done is taken a lot of it out of bonds and stuff like that, and now a higher allocation is in the stock market. But I'm like, yeah, but what stocks? I'm like, oh, just this, it's just bullshit. And I'm like, look, I don't want you to manage it. Can I just have it? And they went, no, you can't have it. Yeah, you can move it to another fund, but you can't have it. It's locked in. I'm like, I'll pay the tax on it. Whatever tax that I didn't pay on it going in, I'll pay it. Just give me the fucking money back. And they won't.
I'm sure Fidelity are doing something around crypto as well. So I don't know if they've also got a pensions arm. I'm sure they do. And so
yeah, I'm pretty sure Fidelity do.
Yeah. So as soon as they do, that's definitely going to be an agenda topic point, because I'll be ringing up Aviva, move my pension, go all in, because I'll be good without.
Yeah, if it was Fidelity, they predicted Bitcoin $100 million price per Bitcoin.
Oh gosh, stop it.
They're super bullish. Fidelity are.
I think if that's the case, I'll be just leaving my pension with Aviva for lols.
Yeah.
Keep the spare change, suckers.
Yeah.
Just like, what am I going to do with this pension now? Oh, I might, I don't know, start a fire with it.
Baller.
So do we want to hit this agenda?
Yeah. Do we want to? We've talked about the Satoshi week. So
yeah,
legal tender in El Salvador. I think we've covered it numerous times. There's rumors.
Yeah, Satoshi quotes.
Yeah. The Satoshi quotes. What's your favorite then?
Yeah, I can go first on that. My favorite one is I think it's the start of a bit of toxic Bitcoin maximalism from Satoshi, because he is the kindest guy ever, and obviously is super good at explaining stuff. He is the original kind of teacher. If he didn't explain what Bitcoin was, then no one was there to do it. But he does get frustrated as well, and I like his quote that if you don't believe it or don't get it, I don't have the time to try and convince you. Sorry.
I thought you'd pick that one.
Yeah, because it's just brilliant, and that's almost the original Have Fun Staying Poor. It's just one of them where we're not trying to convince you of it, right? You ask a question, we can give some answers, but then if you keep going, I don't think you're right, and you kind of doubt the answer, then it's like, look, I'm not trying to sell you on something here. You asked a question, you got an answer, but if you're going to keep going and just keep doubting it, then look, I haven't got time to try and convince you. Sorry, just go on your way.
Yeah, it's your general approach when you didn't bother explaining it to us all those years ago.
Yeah, I actually made myself feel sick, actually, although I had a really good excuse because we were buying the family home at the time. But when we were talking and we look back after we were talking about this just last week on the podcast, the price was indeed £120 per Bitcoin in, I think it was February 2017. And I was just like, okay, I'll go in, but I just didn't understand it, and I was just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think it would have been 1,200 then. No,
yeah, sorry, 1,200. Yeah,
yeah. I think. Well, we were talking about it on messages, weren't we? And you were saying, if it made myself feel sick, I was still to a point, but it would have just been throwaway money, to me at the time, because I didn't understand it. It wasn't like I'd spent probably a couple of years in between reading my economics a lot, And then when the actual whole lockdown happened is when I actually understood the concept. But it wasn't until I got around to reading the Bitcoin Standard when I went, this is how I can save my money. This is how it works.
Yeah.
My favorite quote, kind of going back to the topic, was, I suppose, one which is about the distrust of banks. So the root problem with conventional currency is overtrust what's required to make it work. So I think this is what a lot of people don't understand. They say that money is backed by either gold, they've misunderstood, or governments. It's like, well, what does that mean? So, but basically it comes down to trust. And do you trust the government? And the answer is pretty much no, by anyone. The central bank must be trusted not to debase a currency, but the history of fiat currencies is full of breaches of that trust, as we saw last year with the US dollar. What is it, 22%? Banks must be trusted to hold our money and transfer it electronically, but they lend out in waves of credit bubbles with barely a fraction in reserve. We have to trust them with our privacy, trust them not to let identity thieves drain our accounts. So, every single point there, it just rings true, the problems with fiat.
Yeah. If you go to bitcoinlessons.org, that is actually the one quote that I grabbed from Satoshi down the bottom. I love that quote as well. Just that is the use case for Bitcoin right there. That's our competition. Every time someone goes, oh, Bitcoin doesn't do X, Y, Z. No, it doesn't need to be perfect. It pretty much is, but it doesn't need to be. This is the competition. This is what we have today. And whenever you're slating Bitcoin, if you're open-minded, then also point that criticism at this. And I can guarantee on every single point, this is worse. This is not, we do not have a perfect system. We're just trying to move to this other one just because we're freaking anarchists. It's like, no, the existing system is broken and Bitcoin is better. This and that quote.
Because you do have arguments around inflation, which are basically by a bunch of people who believe in Keynes, but the stuff about fractional reserves, I just don't know anyone who could possibly stand up for that. It's so ludicrous. It is just basically criminal enterprise and nothing else.
In your face as well, like daylight robbery. The actual term daylight robbery is right there.
But I can almost guarantee it. I reckon 90% of people, if you said explain fractional reserve to me, they wouldn't know.
No.
So what are they allowed up to? Is it a 30? Is it 1/32? Is that the correct way of saying it?
So they, after the 2008 crisis, they were doing, they were well down below 5%. So they were loaning out, like for every pound, they were loaning out, what would that even be, like £20. So that was...
Yeah, so that'll be where I've got my figure from.
That's the £1 being lent out 20 times. It's just insane. And I think now they may have gone up to 10, 20 or 30, yeah, which still means forever, if even it's gone up to 30, it means for every £3, there's another 66, or another 6 being lent out, 6.6. So it's still, they're lending out 3 times what they've got, which still means that, and this is always the thing, right? If there's ever a big crisis in the world and there's one on the banks where people go, we don't trust you now, we need to take the money out. Any bank doing fractional reserve, which is all of them, they do not have enough pounds for their customers.
It's funny how you said, we don't trust you. What? We don't trust you. So, yeah, it's kind of works both ways. I'm going to end on my on the 21 wise and funny Bitcoin quotes from Satoshi. Is from Bloody Hell. Satoshi's believed to be British by the choice of specific words, but his quote was, "Sorry to be a wet blanket." And writing a description for this thing for general audiences is bloody hard. There's nothing to relate it to. And I chose that one based on the fact that obviously we all get asked, so what is this Bitcoin thing? And I'm sure no two people are alike in terms of having the same meaning and kind of terminology as to how to explain it to other people. And so despite all the hours of reading and also watching of videos and Twitter, it's still bloody hard to explain it. Because it's so many things. It's not just one thing, and people expect it to be one thing because it's nice, isn't it? The human mind likes it to be nice, neat, and conventional. Is it a digital asset? Is it a monetary thing in terms of a monetary exchange? it's everything. It's a secure network and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's so much to it.
And
that's the reason why it's
so
big.
There's a lot of people now that have probably spent a lot of time making that question easier to answer because a lot of good content. But obviously, when Satoshi wrote this is 11 years ago he wrote that, and even today, like if you just walk around the street and try and explain Bitcoin to someone, they will probably question you and go, "I don't get this, I don't get that." And imagine, and there's already 200 million Bitcoiners in now. But imagine being Satoshi when the first couple of dozen, and you have to broach this subject to the first couple of people. Well, I've made a new form of money, and they're just going to go, "What? Like, how? How? Like, what the hell? Oh, it's more secure, it's better." But and you imagine how many levels of detail he'd have got to go through. And ultimately, Satoshi's a developer as well. So normally developers are notoriously bad at explaining their work because they're super technical and just want to go into the brilliance of their code. And ultimately, to describe a thing, don't describe the code. You've got to go about 3 levels up to explain that to the customer as to what problem it solves. Absolutely. And so it's almost incredible that a coder, a developer like this, actually even had the ability to really explain Bitcoin so it took off at all because it didn't have a marketing department, right? This is like coding the ultimate API and just throwing it out there, going, "I've saved the world." And normally, what you would need is about 100 marketeers to go, "This is what he means, guys." Let's dumb it down. We need some taglines. We need a nice logo. So we didn't have any of that.
And instead, it's just developed a horde of toxic Bitcoin maximalists.
Hey, we're the marketing department, man.
Yeah, it's like, I don't understand this. Have fun staying poor. The final one, which I want to leave this with, is lost coins only make everyone else's coins worth slightly more. Think of it as a donation to everyone. Yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah, like I said, I'm sure there'll be some Salvadorians that are losing their coins as we speak right now, even on the day.
Oh yeah. Guaranteed. I really actually cringe. You know, like how when we go into Coinbase and get our $3 worth of shit coins, and we instantly just convert it into Bitcoin. I have this horrible feeling that there's a load of El Salvadorans are going to do the same thing when they get their Bitcoin drop. They're going to go, "Oh, I need to convert this into dollars ASAP," and now it's real money. So I just kind of cringe at that. But I'm sure there's going to be a % of people that do it. And
you just need some adoption. You know, this is the public use case. People go on holiday to El Salvador, they get to spend some Bitcoins, buy some tacos. You know, it is just a use case. So bring it on because it is part of the journey.
Yeah.
Well, even at 1%, if there's like 2 million Salvadorians living abroad, and then they start sending the remittance home, that's 20,000 people using Bitcoin, and obviously it increasing more and more. So we'll see, give it time.
We've got 6.4 million population. So I don't know how many migrants they've had.
Yeah, I don't know.
So, but still, it will still have a use case. So still really good. Yeah. Do you want to move on to the next one? Because I love this one. Twitter and beta testing for Lightning tips integration. It wasn't so much the article, it was the comments.
They all hate it, don't they?
Well, it was one of the earliest comments which I come across was, so this is Twitter and beta testing for Lightning tips integration. So it's not just Bitcoin tips, it's through the Lightning network.
Yeah.
And here's one comment. I love paying $5 or even $45 to send a few bucks. I also like to tell people to wait 30 minutes before spending their tip.
Yeah. It's brilliant, that, isn't it? It's just such an ignorant comment.
Yeah, it's one of the first ones, and a few people just said you need to read about the Lightning Network. You commented on something which says Lightning Network. The clue is in the name.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, if that genuinely does that guy genuinely think that Jack Dorsey, like one of the richest guys on the planet, has introduced a product where you can tip on Bitcoin? And obviously, tips are going to be small amounts of money, right? By definition, tips are small, especially for tweets. You're thinking it's going to be probably less than $1 in reality. If fees were genuinely $45, do you think he'd have been stupid enough to even consider this? Clearly, you wouldn't have. He would have stopped. But he hasn't even comprehended that Lightning makes it zero fees. So I can send you 3 Satoshis for a tweet now.
But what you're not comprehending is the stupidity of a lot of people. And by having internet, it's just a way of putting out their voices on things which they don't comprehend. Rather than taking the time to understand and going, oh, why is he using it? What's this Lightning Network? Let's have a read. Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. The one downside of this story is that I don't think it includes it in the actual story, but it's come out elsewhere. They're also allowing tips in Ethereum. Now, that is going to be funny because the fees on Ethereum are $45. And they don't have the Lightning Network. So like, to tip with Ethereum, that comment is actually correct. But for Bitcoin and Lightning, it's not. Like Bitcoin has advanced because we're just concentrating on money, right? That's it. Ethereum is currently putting JPEGs and worth like $4 million on their freaking blockchain. But that what it does is make the Bitcoin, their blockchain really massive and bloated. It's just got JPEGs all over the thing. So to send a transaction every single time, you have to make sure all the JPEGs are in the right place. It's just bloated and freaking costing an absolute fortune to send an Ethereum transaction right now. They've literally broken their own network again. And
yeah, it's funny actually you mentioned that because again, doing the research throughout the week, really understanding that Ethereum's network is really complex and obviously getting more and more complex. And as we know, it's had a new update, which has made it even more complex and it's forked as to what it originally was. And not to say that Bitcoin hasn't necessarily changed and the network hasn't changed, but you're just watching a moving beast, and there's so much money in Ethereum as the second largest cryptocurrency that's out there. And so many people are going to get wrecked when it finally collapses.
Yeah. If anything, it's almost like quite a clever hodl at the moment because there's so many people that have got a random token on Ethereum and it's not worth that much money. It's probably like a couple of $100 or whatever. You're forced to hodl it because you can't even move it anywhere to sell it because it costs $50 to $100 to move the thing. And there's a lot of, I see the shitcoiners complaining sometimes just to like, it's just hilarious. Like they literally can't move in and out of coins. They can't even buy some Bitcoin because their entire value of their money gets eaten up in fees. Because especially depending on how far into the DeFi rabbit hole you've gone, sometimes you're like in PooCoin and you've got to get through Pancake Swap to Sushi Swap so it's about 8 transactions and it's like it's going to cost $1,000 to go through all these loops just to finally get out and then buy some Bitcoin. You're like, look, you put yourself in that hole, mate. Like you're fucking in. Like unlucky.
I had my Ethereum. I was going to say I had the Ethereum and I got big transaction fee when I sold it because I think it was just sitting there hodling for years. And I bought it basically because I was like, oh, it might do well. And then when I came to sell it, I was like, great. I think I had to pay something ridiculous in transaction fees. I want to say like 80 quid or something.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's when Ethereum was like some like £650. So a big chunk of my profit was taken by fees.
Yeah, there you go. And ironically, it's a beautiful thing for Bitcoin as well because the Lightning Network is so good. So many transactions have moved on to there. So now, ironically, even doing a main chain transaction at the moment only costs a couple of quid. So it kind of like the fact that we've scaled it effectively. So many transactions have now moved over to the free place. Putting transactions on layer 1, which is ultimately where you really want to do your transactions, ideally. Now you can do them there now if you can afford a couple of quid per transaction. You don't even have to use Lightning, but it's kind of like it's released the pressure at both ends, really. So now it's solved the problem in both places. Whereas, Ethereum has, that is
as I see a lot of the time on other podcasts that I listen to, in the air of transparency, I still have my 2017, 2018 Ether. And so, right now I put in back then, put in 1,500 quid over a couple of months or so.
Oh.
And so I don't know what the price of the coin is because I never look. Is it about what, 2.5 or something?
Yeah, I think it's about it took about 25% hit today.
Yeah.
Bitcoin went down by like 15, 17%, but then all the shit coins, this is always what we say as well. When Bitcoin takes a hit, it drags the Bitcoins and the shit coins and it throws them about another 10 or 20% further down.
Yeah.
So I think Ethereum went from about $4,000 to 3.5, which is a nice 25% hit.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, when I eventually come to sell it, because to your point, I'm just hodling. I've got just under 3.5 coins there. Just there's no point in me selling them.
Yeah. And whilst we're talking about shitcoins, let's move on to shitcoin corner.
Yeah, let's
Admittedly,
do it.
we have a Bitcoiner here. So we've mentioned Jason Williams before. He's Mr. Parabolic guy, the author of Bitcoin Money You Can't Fuck With.
Yeah.
And but he got caught on Twitter being a little bit of a dirty shiller, didn't he? So he's Mr. Fucking, oh, it doesn't matter how you stack sats, you can go off and do shitcoining. And look, by and large, fine. But what he tried to do on Twitter here is he posted this dumbass picture of the worst drawn alien I've ever fucking seen. Apparently it's one of Gary V's NFT.
Who?
Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yeah.
He's a really, I actually quite liked him back in the day as a business guy, but he's just launched into NFTs and a total fucking idiot right now.
He does talk a lot about NFTs and kind of thinks that he's first to market. And I think, okay, Gary, what are you trying to do? Like, is it because you weren't really up on Bitcoin at the very, very beginning, and so you're now going to go full blown NFT? I don't know.
I definitely think it's the billionaire complex because he's very, very wealthy, isn't he? And I think he's almost doing the same thing that Elon did, right? He kind of missed Bitcoin. He's a decade late. And he's like, but I missed the first. So Elon went, oh, Dogecoin's the thing. Like, no one thinks it is. I've spotted it. And I think Gary's doing the same, where he's like, oh, like, no, these shitcoins and Doge are nothing. It's NFTs. And I'm first. I'm going to launch my own NFT collection. And Jason Williams, he's a Bitcoiner, got sucked in. And he tweets about this alien going, I've just received 100K bid for this. Isn't the world crazy? And but then someone tweets below, but you paid $400,000 for this picture. So actually the bid, whilst it is amazing, you're 300K down. And his comment to him is something like, go shove it in your mouth with your small penis prick or something. So he obviously gets quite triggered. He says he's got, I think he calls the guy that called him out, like, you've only got a 2-inch penis. It's in there somewhere. I can't quite see it now. But it's weird. And again, this Jason guy, he's a billionaire, nothing to do with Bitcoin, nothing to do with shit coins. He's a legitimate billionaire. He's created numerous companies, sold them for hundreds of millions, and then invested the money wisely. And it's just crazy to see, because he probably is the kind of guy that can afford to lose 300K on a JPEG. He's just got to take the L on it. But bizarrely, he's actually exploiting his following here, because he knows full well by posting a picture of a JPEG that he's just going, oh, isn't it crazy that I got a bid for 100K? He's trying to create FOMO there. He's trying to get his followers to go, oh my God, this JPEG's worth loads, and try and start a bidding war. And who knows what that 100K bid is as well, by the way. That could easily just be another one of his Ether accounts, and he might be buying, because this is what a lot of the NFT guys do, is they buy NFTs off themselves. And then it looks like, oh, if that person's willing to pay 100K for this JPEG, then I'm okay spending 150 because, it's only 50 above, right? And it feels safe. It's like the classic price anchoring thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And if others are doing it, I'll do it too.
Yeah, but he's got a lot of shit for this, and rightly so, because he's basically trying to scam his followers here. Because he's trying to scam someone into buying this JPEG off him. He obviously feels like he's just being stupid, paying 400K for this. He's trying to get rid of it. And
I'm trying to see the actual, like, obviously art's quite subjective, but my kids could do this better with felt tip pens. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, weirdly, like Gary V, I was following him on Twitter until he started this. And I tweeted about it numerous times. He was drawing, like, he was doing Snapchats and all sorts. And he would draw one of these stupid animals or an alien literally in the space of 5 minutes. He would then sign it in the corner, hold it up, and just move on to the next one. And he's like, I'm so creative. I don't know how I have all this. I just got to get it out.
Well, this is I think Safer D. Mamus talks about this a lot about art. It's in his tweets and it's his book. I think it's in the Fiat Standard. He says, sound money creates masterpieces where you're paying for someone's time, whereas nowadays you're paying for someone to cut a cow in half, which actually takes some, an hour or two. And they've not had to learn any of that process, but some idiot will buy it for $4 million. You look at or what's it called, the ceiling in one of the chapels or churches in Rome, where they've painted, great detail, taken them donkey's years to hand paint it. So, it's priceless, and obviously it's never going to be moved because it's on a ceiling. Whereas now we're looking at, someone's put an unmade bed in an art exhibition, it's worth £2 million. It's like, one, where you're going to store that, and two, my child can do that. And both from they're 3 and 5.
Yeah.
So if people have completely lost track of what's actually worth money, so you think it's about what, in art in particular, it's the amount of time, it's all that effort which someone has learned how to draw in a particular way or over all those years, and also how good it is, and then also how scarce it is, not something which I can pull out within 5 minutes.
Yeah, and ever since the big NFT by Beeble, the 69 million one, I think things have just gone pretty quiet as well. And I think people are trying to drum up interest, and feels really forced.
Mm. It seems to be working though, because the NFT market is genuinely crazy. Like there's rocks and punks and bored apes, and they seem to genuinely be going for hundreds of thousands.
Are you not going to do your poker sharks? We talked about this last week. Do it.
I thought about it, and the problem is I just can't do it. No, I think once you go down that slippery slope, and even if you go, it's okay, I'm going to donate all the money to charity. Yeah, but I'm ultimately, like, people are giving me their money. I'm going to have to shill it. If I create something like that, I'm going to have to go out and promote it. And I'm promoting a scam. I'm promoting JPEG, and people are going to buy them, who knows for what kind of money. And I just know I don't want to waste any time on scamming, because it's just no.
Don't want to be associated with it. Go, like you said, it's a slippery path, and
I'm going to have to spend a decent amount of time. Like, if I'm actually going to need to promote it, aren't I, and say that it exists, I'm going to have to probably go and infiltrate some of the NFT Discord groups and stuff and start chatting to them. And then, it's all part of, like, now I'm just like these young kids. I saw a conversation online with a poker player talking, trying to buy an NFT, and he said the lad admitted he was 17 and pretty much his entire net worth was in 3 NFTs. They're the kind of guys that ultimately end up buying your shit at the end. They're the bag holders. They're the ones that are going to be left thinking they have $100,000 worth of value, but then the NFTs just go to zero, and they're going to be devastated. And I don't want to be part of that. It's going to be short lived. They're about 6 months in. These scams, the ICOs took about a year to go full pump, and then when the dump happens, it's brutal. And at the moment, we're still in the pump stage. We must be quite near the top now, because JPEGs are going for millions of dollars. That's got to be the top. So,
I remember everybody was coming out with that new ICO. Oh, it's a new thing. The initial coin offering. This is what you need to get in on. Be the first. And it just. I don't know. I kind of had JOMO in terms of, I think that's me in terms of the joy of missing out. And I was just like, go for it. I'll just wait.
Yeah, it's so obvious. If anything, though, I actually think it's more honest, the JPEG thing, because with the ICOs, they'd have a white paper and they would say, oh, no, we're taking on Google, or we're going to be the casino of the internet, because it's on the blockchain. Everything was just, what's the biggest industry you can think of, and then just put on the blockchain, and then go, that's our ICO, we're going to raise money. And they would all raise tens of millions, not even try and do the thing, and just steal it. Right? It was just, that was kind of out and out fraud, where you thought you were investing in a company that was going to fix a big problem, and they never had any intention of doing so. But with the NFT JPEG thing, they're not promising you anything. They're giving you a picture of an ape and going, give us $100,000 for this. Like, what do I get? It's like, you get this. I'll send it to your address. And when you pay them $100,000, you do get the JPEG. So, there's no fraud going on here. This is legit. This is why I was actually having this argument with a pleb on Bitcoin Twitter before, going, because he was actually asking, like, oh, I can't wait for the NFTs to all get reported to the SEC, and then we'll get like jail time. I'm like, why do you get jail time for NFTs? No law is being broken. This is just,
you've got what you asked for.
Someone's going, I'm selling a JPEG and I'm putting a ridiculous price tag on it. Some moron comes along and buys it, provided I actually do give it to them. The transaction was not fraudulent. Like, if I didn't give them the JPEG, then yeah, that I have now defrauded someone of their money. But I did send it in exchange for $100,000.
So all it is a JPEG with a digital signature on, isn't it?
Yeah. And some of them, like the Gary V little scam that he's done, is that he reckons they're also like tickets. So some of the certain ones will get you in. So I don't know what this alien one does, but there's some of his JPEGs will let you in, like as a lifetime ticket to his conference. Other ones get you a one-on-one conversation with him. But this is all just marketing gimmicks that are put over the top. It's just
you should buy one. Hopefully you get the one-on-one conversation. Why are you such a moral?
I would love him to have a one-on-one with a Bitcoiner. He would he wouldn't last long.
Do you think it's kind of like their income money sort of thing? Like they're just their play money that they're dealing with now, because these guys are super rich anyway, but it's just like, oh, right, I've got this extra cash coming in from an NFT. Yeah, we'll buy a holiday with that.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I actually did listen to a podcast the other day because I wanted to understand why these guys are buying them. And it was a load of NFT guys just talking about why they're so valuable. And one of them had such a good point. It was literally, right, these guys have been in crypto for a decade. They are uber rich, so rich. They are young and they are billionaires. And they've never done a day's work in their life. They've just been buying random coins and they've gone up hugely. And there's only a couple of thousand of these guys, but they all sit at home. Their entire life is on the internet, right? And they bought a couple of houses. They got a couple of cars. They still have billions. They don't know what to do with it. So their life is online. So what is a perfect thing to buy to flex that you're wealthy is to pay $3 million for a JPEG, set it as your profile picture, and be able to prove that you paid for that. That gets you a lot of online kudos. Like the other plebs that are around the internet suddenly look at your account and go, wow, he paid $3 million for his profile picture. And it's like the in real life Lambo. On the internet, it's the internet Lambo, which is the most expensive profile picture in the world. And they literally have nothing else to do. They don't even care if their 3 million profile picture goes to zero. It's like when you buy a Lambo, right? You don't care the fact that Lambo is going to go from 300 grand to be worth 10 grand in 10 years. You don't give a fuck. Like, it's just, it looks good for today. My mates are going to be jealous and I'm going to have a good fucking time in it for a couple of years. And then, yeah, it's worthless. It's just, you throw it into the scrap heap. Who gives a fuck? I'm rich. And it's the same with the JPEG, I think. They're literally just spending money and they've got nothing else to spend it on, because that's the problem, right? Once you've bought a house and you bought a couple of cars and you're 25, you're an internet degenerate. What the fuck do you spend your money on?
I think there's also a subculture to that as well from a gaming perspective. Like, the packs that you get, whether you play FIFA or COD or even Fortnite. And you obviously get to customize weapons or kits, etc. And if you've got that one special thing that nobody else has got, digitally you are flexing, aren't you?
Yeah.
So a lot of people like that. They will pay to get the gold-plated digital Uzi gun for COD. And it's like, okay, that's great. It's digital. You can't touch it. You're not doing anything with it, but it's just that thing. And it's weird.
Yeah. And it is fake scarcity as well, because in theory, like on COD, yeah, maybe they say there's only 1,000 of that gun. Yeah. So if you get one of them, like you're one of, like, you can like proper flex on your mates now. It's like, oh, look, I've got the rainbow freaking Uzi gun. But in reality, a developer at the COD headquarters could just make 1 million of those guns. It's literally just a change in the database. But you trust that they don't. And they probably won't as well, because it's not in their interest.
Yes,
The people that bought 1,000 would be really pissed off and probably never pay anything again if they suddenly got dumped on and 1 million of the gun came out. So this is the same with the NFT thing. It's like, it's fake scarcity. The developer could easily just put another 1,000 of the same JPEG online, and people probably have. But you've just got to go, well, I hope he doesn't. And I supposedly have the original one. So this is why it has value. But it's not like with Bitcoin. Bitcoin has real scarcity. No one can just print some more Bitcoin and then you go, oh, I have the original ones. So it's like, no, any other Bitcoin over there, there's a forked chain or whatever. We know that is not Bitcoin. It's like, it's a genuine scarcity. JPEGs are just, there's no scarcity, but people don't seem to care. And it's like you said in the computer game world, people don't care in that world either. But there's just this kind of trust on a central third party that they won't flood the market. And provided they don't, then to a certain extent, these things do hold their value.
Yeah. I've actually been a victim, or I think you just get caught up in it, because I played Street Fighter 5 for a very long time, and I've seen it along the way. When the game first came out in 2016 in February, it had limited characters, and then Season 2 came. And in Season 2, you could either buy all of the characters, or you could do the various different random events and then earn your way there. But then once you did it, if you didn't do it, it was gone, never to be had again. And it wasn't until Season 5 that you could, and which was 5 years later, that you could buy all of the back seasons. So, but you weren't to know that. And so I definitely think that people did it along the way, and obviously getting new characters. And also, again, it was down to high preference time as well. If you weren't bothered, it was only a couple of quid, just buy them.
Did you buy them?
I bought them. I bought them. I'm in. I was like, I ain't got time for this. I'm in. I bought them. I wanted the Honda. I'm sorry.
I actually just posted the price chart for Dink Donk.
I did that a while ago when we were talking about the ICOs. So I just thought it's one which we talked about. It's probably the most ludicrous coin which we've talked about, and it's basically gone to zero.
Oh my god, yeah, that is the worst price chart I have ever seen. It's just down only.
It pretty much was at a price. It slumped within the first couple of hours, and then it just went down. I'm guessing as the investors or owners just sold all their coins and pulled the rug.
No, they wouldn't do that, would they?
Because somehow, even though it seemed to be at zero, it's gone down like 16% just today. So even though it was virtually at zero. Like,
yeah, minus 16.89.
Yeah, that's that, wow. And that's just today's. And it's like you said, if you go to the year-to-date chart, it was already at zero like about 3 months ago when it came out. Actually, it's only been out 3 months. It took about 2 weeks to get to zero, but then since then, there's still a lot of big dips. You just can't see them because they're nowhere near as big as the original dips. Yeah, so that's Logan Paul's coin. That was a confirmed exit scam right there. Yeah, we called it when he launched it, didn't we? We talked about Dink Donk or whatever it is. Like whenever that came out, we talked about it, and there it is.
Oh, hold on. That was a couple of months ago. How about you overlay the Floyd Mayweather fight and the dates of this chart, and I guarantee they correlate.
When did they fight?
That's what I'm just about to Google right now.
The coin came out beginning of July from the looks of it.
Oh, surprise, surprise. The fight was the 6th of June they fought.
Okay, so it's afterwards, isn't it?
So it's afterwards.
So riding is publicity.
Yeah, ride the publicity, take the money, out we go.
Yeah, it did seem to be something that he seemed to launch it, and he never really spoke about it again, because obviously the price has gone straight down, hasn't it? So there's been nothing to sell. Must have been a nice to straight in pump and dump.
Yeah, it was pull the plug the minute it was launched, pretty much.
Yeah, normally, obviously, he hasn't got a very good experience about how to do a pump and dump there, because he's a wealthy guy. So the way to do it, if he wants to do it properly next time, is when you launch the coin, he can't go and sell all his coins straight away because that means everyone runs to the door. What he has to do is he's worth hundreds of millions anyway. So what he should have just done is gone, I'm going to put 20 million to one side and buy 1 million a day for 20 days of his own coin. That would have pumped the price. That suddenly gets all his followers some confidence. This coin is going to go to the moon. It would create FOMO. It would look like, wow, this coin has like tripled in price since it's come out, nice and consistent. All the dumb money comes in. It would take the price of his coin from wherever he got it to. It would probably 10 or 100x. Now you dump. Now, and you take your 20 million out plus a shit ton of profit. You probably take an extra 100 million out in profit. Then it goes to zero. That's how you do a pump and dump. You don't dump on day one. Silly boy. Can't even scam properly.
There's your 101 in scamming right there in 20 seconds.
Seen it a million times, and that's how you pump it down. You got to get some fake upward movement. So, and only wealthy people can do that, right? That's why people tend to scam from one industry and come into another, and then they use their wealth to like manipulate the price upwards to begin with. To give, it's like when like, say a market stall and someone's selling something dodgy. You have a few plants in the crowd that buy the product first, and it gives the rest of the audience confidence that, oh, if these three people have just run to the front to get this special offer, then I'm stupid standing here. I need to join the queue. And the three people that buy first are plants. They're not buying it at all. They go with him to every market store. What do you want to talk about now? If you talk about the confiscation is $87,000.
Yeah, let's do it. Washington Post. Okay, so with everything, whenever I see it, I always think now behind it. So who owns the Washington Post?
The Jeff Bezos. Yeah.
Exactly. So when you read it with Jeff in mind.
I couldn't actually access it, so I had to Google it and read a different article about this.
You just have to click on the free, because I had that. So just for browsing for free.
Yeah, it tries to get you to subscribe with two buttons, but the first one says just click here for free. And I think it gives you a certain amount of articles for free. So unless you've been reading the Washington Post loads, then this will be like your one free article a month or something, whatever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I just ignored it because I just saw all the access, so I just went there.
Yeah.
So the background to it was a Nevada trooper who, when he was pulled over, a former Marine, when he was pulled over, had $87,000 in a zip bag. Right? And then the drug dogs sniffed it out. And so following from that, he was, essentially the police took the money, confiscated the money.
I think there's two points to this. I think there probably is a reasonable cause, so he could confiscate it, but it's when they went for adoption after not finding any probable cause. So I think, the kind of confiscation you can kind of forgive. But when we look into it and go, we've got no proof to show this is money laundering, drugs, whatever, there's no way which he should be able to adopt it. And it's absolutely madness that that's written into American law. They can do it.
Yeah. Well, this is a weird thing.
Word adoption. Yeah.
Because I've seen this happen numerous times. I actually saw there's an article on it where, I think it might have even been a Netflix documentary or something, because they've realized that these police officers, they can confiscate any amount of money that you have that they think looks suspicious if you don't categorically prove where you got it from. And proof is needed, as in a receipt. You need to actually have a receipt for the amount of money that you have on you. And obviously, if people don't tend to have that type of thing with them. So if they don't, even though the drug dogs think they smelled drugs on it, they searched the car, there were no drugs in the car, there were no drugs with the money. They just thought that the money has been around drugs before, but that doesn't mean anything, because we know, like, what was it, like 30% of notes have a trace of cocaine on. So that doesn't mean anything if there's a large bulk of money there. Of course, there's going to be drugs around it. But the fact that they could just take it, and then if you can't prove how they got it, then I've actually seen in this documentary, they actually budget in this confiscated cash. The police stations actually upgrade their own, like they have a nice Christmas party, they upgrade some of their equipment out of the confiscated cash, and they actually have it budgeted.
Come on, boys, we're running low on the Christmas funds. Let's get some more adoption. We need some more adoption. You there with the blue cap, get 5% more on the adoption.
Yeah. And it just shows that basically you are treated as a criminal if you have a large amount of money on you. That's the long and short of it, right? And I think we all know that anyway. Like if you were to carry around 10 grand and a police officer was to stop you, I would be sweating just straight away, because I'd be like, the best case scenario here is probably he's going to take this money. And even though I might have a legitimate cause for it, it's going to take a number of months for me to ever get this money back, if at all. And it's just weird. And obviously, this is another thing. Bitcoin fixes this. Whatever this guy is doing, and it does look, to be fair, I think that guy does have a history of drug charges against him. So this is almost definitely probably drug money. Let's just be honest with it. But
the article which I read said that there's no indication. The only thing she'd had was a restraining order against his wife.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I've actually state where he had the money from, unless I missed it.
He had receipts which show that it was out of his account. He's got an army pension or something. So it said it's all legitimate because it's got receipts from it, and they've looked into the incomings and outgoings of his account, and it's all kosher. So I read a different article to you guys because I kind of saw the pay thing for that and went, fuck that, and I googled it. So I've read a little bit differently. But it does, the whole thing is, why are you carrying around that amount of money? He said that he was looking for a house closer to his ex-wife and his daughters, was what he said. But still, why would you have cash to pay that way? You'd have it with a lawyer. Yeah. And I'm sure, and he usually kept it at his parents' house, but his parents were away for weekends.
Yeah. The thing is, it's crazy that you need a reason for why you want the money on you. It's his fucking money. If he wants to carry it around, he can carry it around. But if the government catch you with it, they'll fucking take it. And that isn't right. Because the thing is, if he'd have had Bitcoin and he's had a ledger, he could have had millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin on him and they wouldn't have had a clue. And because, I keep most of my money outside the banking system. So I'm essentially doing the same as him, driving around with a big duffel bag on my passenger seat. But it's a duffel bag that they can't see. It's just a little freaking USB drive, isn't it? So I'm doing the same thing as that guy. I don't trust the banks either. And I think I did read a quote in there. I think there's somewhere where he went, I just don't trust the system. I don't trust banks. I want the money. I can touch it. So he's one step away from being a Bitcoiner. And hopefully when he gets his money back, this will teach him a lesson to go, look, carrying your money around with you is absolutely fine. We don't trust the banking system either. But you've got to convert it into an asset that police can't see. And that's Bitcoin.
We've got his name. We've got his location. Someone should track him down. Yeah. Send him some messages. Look into Bitcoin.
Yeah. Get that money back and get it straight into Bitcoin.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's kind of like, as he said there, as I was reading through the article a bit deeper, he anticipated being stopped. Hence the reason why he had the receipts on him. And it's kind of like a classic guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah.
And so he felt like he needed to have that, knowing that it's going to happen, it's bound to happen. And when it does, well, there's your proof. And even though he had the proof and probably argued the point as and when the police officer stopped him, they still, went down the adoption route and took it. But the fact that he could prove it and he got his money back, hopefully with some interest, there should be citizen inflation that we should be able to invoke.
Has he got his money back? Because I thought he was just in legal case on the article which I read.
Yeah, it says that he got the money back as well. He also got the money back afterwards.
I mean, it's a bit of a lesson. I mean, I know you're saying that the government shouldn't have the power, but it's also, well, what happens if he got robbed? It's still a bit silly, carjacking or whatever. Like, no one's going to pay his money back. I just think it's a bit silly by him on numerous different levels. And with the police, maybe he should just identified as a bank or an ATM.
It's like, I agree, it is silly to carry that amount of money with you. Like, if I ever have more than a couple of £100 on me for whatever reason, I feel nervous just walking down the street. I just assume someone might know, and they're just going to grab my wallet.
Oh.
So it is silly, but what I would do, I would fight for the right for people to be allowed to do that. There's no reason people are allowed to do silly things. They shouldn't get arrested for doing silly things.
I'm thinking more about for his protection because it's a silly law, but put that to one side, it's still, you could get robbed, carjacked, whatever. Car catches on.
I can almost guarantee he had a gun with him, and he's a Marine, so he probably could handle himself, but he can't handle himself against the government.
Yeah, car catches on fire, whatever. It's just silly. Talking about silly things, do you want to talk about Australians?
Yeah.
Remember Mario Balotelli? He also got pulled over that time when he was in Manchester with about £25,000 or so in the passenger seat. And when the police officer said, "Well, why do you have that much cash on you?" He's just like, "Because I can."
Yeah,
that was his excuse. And
then he got taken off him, didn't he?
I think so. I think it's because it's alien to people as well, isn't it? Certainly in the UK, to have that amount of cash, like you see it quite often in the US where, you know, they're throwing money all over each other, and it's kind of like that culture to do so, to carry around wads of cash and put it under the mattress and so on. But yeah, it may be just because we're just not used to it.
But the real reason, like cutting through it, right, the reason why they created this law and the reason why everyone is scared if you get stopped, because they don't want you to be doing large transactions in cash because they're completely anonymous.
Yeah.
So it means it's very easy to not pay your taxes or buy illegal things or whatever. So they pretend that, oh, this is probably a drug deal. There would probably be, a lot of us would probably have a lot more cash in our houses if, obviously if you weren't a Bitcoiner, but if it wasn't already frowned upon and wasn't seen as illegal. But because it's got that tint to it, that not only is it a bit silly because someone could break into your house and just steal the cash, and then there's no real way of you proving that the cash was there, and probably your insurance company is probably just going to look at you and go, "You were stupid for having 20 grand of cash sat in a safe. That's your own fault. That's gone. We're not paying out." But it's also the fact that if the police come around and have a look and find you 20, 30 grand in a safe, they're going to straight away assume you're a criminal, and you don't want to be framed in that way. And in reality, you are breaking the law because they've created laws about holding a amount of cash over a certain value, but that's just for their own benefit. It's not for your benefit at all. They just don't want you doing transactions outside of the system.
Also, as well, on that point, if if you've withdrawn that money and you were going around and you're actually physically, because it's a proven study, isn't it? If you were physically handing over money as opposed to paying for goods on your card, you wouldn't pay as much as you do, because you don't feel that connection to it when you're paying on your card. Whereas when you're physically letting go of the money, you think, "Oh, I can see the stack going down now. Maybe I should hold back." And so it's like they want you to use the card, to use the overdraft and so on, and credit, so that they get the money back ultimately.
Yeah, go on then. Dr. Wall Dr. 10% even.
So I want to move on to Australians while we're talking about silliness. So 56% of Australians think Elon Musk invented Bitcoin. So this was on about, I think, predictions in Australia when they think crypto is going to dominate Aussie dollar, as well as what Gen Z hold in forms of crypto at the moment. So the stat which we start off with, 56% of Australians are stupid.
It almost makes me feel less sorry for them, the fact that they're all being locked in their homes and being beaten up at the moment. If 56% of them think Elon Musk created Bitcoin, then you deserve prison.
It's for their health.
Yeah.
I've got a friend over in Australia, and with a couple of people that we work with and so on, and they seem to say that it's okay, but I'm like, are you saying it's okay because they've already conditioned you? And from our perspective, we're looking from the outside in, but they're in it, so they're like, no, it's fine. We should be policed. we shouldn't be allowed outside of this 5 mile radius zone. And is it too early right now until they really get tired and then they're ready to fight back? I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen some crazy videos of their like, because weirdly, it was only a couple of weeks ago. I think we were discussing the fact that they had these quarantine camps popping up in Australia. They're built. Like this, I've seen videos of these people in individual little shacks, and they all have to sit there. They're getting patrolled up and down. So this guy was saying how this girl was sat drinking a cup of coffee on her veranda, and the guy came along and went, "What? Put your mask on." She sat there like completely on her own in her little veranda of the pod that she's in, and then she's like, "I'm drinking my coffee." He's like, "Well, not right now. Put it on." Like in between sips. It's just insane.
What were the quarantine camps for? Is it when people come into the country?
Yeah, by and large for that, but then also for people that then test positive, you get shipped off.
What? So you can't stay at home?
No, you're not allowed home quarantine. They put you in a quarantine.
What?
Yeah.
So what happens if it's a kid?
Yeah, I don't know. Don't know what their rules are on kids, but I saw another one where this was like, it almost looked like a Butlins thing where everyone had their own cabin. But then there was another one where there was some guys that were in a hotel, and there was a guy going crazy next door to this guy, and he was obviously filming himself going, "This guy is going crazy because the guy next door has been in here for 14 days. We've been locked in these hotel rooms with no contact. Like there's nothing to entertain yourself inside the room." And the guy thought he was getting out at midday, and they went, "No, it's not midday. It's midnight. So you need to wait another 12 hours before we let you go." Even though this guy has been tested twice a day for 14 days, they refused to let him go. None of these people have tested positive, by the way. These are purely just people coming back from Australia, coming to Australia from other countries. And this guy just reached breaking point. He went basically crazy, and he was tearing his room up, and it was just thumping the wall. He was smashing his hotel room to pieces. And the guys were going, "Stop it. We're going to gas you in a minute to like calm you down." He's just like, "Let me the fuck out of this place. I fucking had it." And he literally mentally broke him. And you're like, Jesus Christ, what are they doing to their own people? They're putting them 14 days of isolation. This, and you know, what's the cruelest thing you can do to a human being? Like in prison, it is putting them in prison and also in isolation with no human contact. That's the cruelest thing.
That's what they do in prison for really out of control. You know, that's the ultimate one, isn't it? I forgot what we call it in the films.
Yeah.
They call it
put them in the hole.
Yeah, the hole.
Yeah, the hole. Yeah, they call it something really particular because that is the biggest punishment which you can get. Well, I think the one which topped it for me, I know it's maybe not as well. I suppose it is crueler in a way, is when they shot all the dogs at a local pound because they didn't want people to come in to look at them. I was just like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, even as the non, I don't have pets, but that was just ridiculous.
Or last year when they wouldn't let babies go across state borders to a hospital, which was a heart specialist one, so they let the babies die.
Yeah, because they'd converted. Yeah, because those babies would have had the services they needed and the hospitals were nearby, but they converted them to COVID hospitals. So the babies then did not have the care. It took them too long to travel, or to a certain extent, these babies are too ill to travel anyway, and they died. Yeah.
No, they wouldn't let them across state borders.
It's just, yeah.
That was the reason. It wasn't so much the distance; it's they weren't allowed to go across 2 hours or something across the state. But yeah, it's ridiculous. We're kind of going off topic. So some of the other stats from there, prediction is that 2029, crypto will dominate the Aussie dollar. So that was the predictions off this news.com.au. And 31% of Gen Z owns some form of crypto. I think it's about 9% own Bitcoin. So about a third of those figures. So you got a lot of shitcoiners in there. But I think that's probably the makeup of the crypto market in general, isn't it? You got, a good proportion, because even 33% of people are actually stacking sats of some meaningful currency, whereas the rest are, stacking cum rocket and whatever else.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. I think the fact that they're in, then it's kind of fine. It's the weird, like, catch-22 with things like Dogecoin and all these scams and NFTs. Like, if it gets them in, and then they end up finding out about Bitcoin a bit more, and eventually they'll land on a Bitcoin standards type podcast. That'll be the thing that makes them just click, and then they'll be in. But they've just got to go through their shitcoin stage, haven't they? So
get it out of their system.
Yeah, and it doesn't give me much confidence though, because obviously for the first stat where half of the people think Elon Musk created Bitcoin, it's like no wonder you're not going to buy it if you think Elon made it.
Yeah. What's a breakdown of people according to age? So you got to think quite a large proportion of that could be boomers.
Yeah, it just shows in reality what this whole article. Whenever they survey people like this, essentially they're surveying people that like that guy that made the comment on the other article about Lightning being integrated into Twitter. They've done next to no research. They've just seen Bitcoin, Elon Musk, climate change. They're literally playing like word association in their mind. So they haven't actually read even a single article. They just heard a name and they've heard a thing and they've heard a FUD bit. And when they get asked, they kind of talk quite confidently on it. And probably when they filled out this survey, they were like, oh, yeah, I'm quite confident that these are the right answers. They have no clue what they're talking about.
They should have given them the FUD dice. Let's see what we can throw in there.
Sweet. Wrecked of the week.
Wrecked of the week.
This is one of the original. This is the original.
Connect finally getting its just desserts. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the original scams in 2017. This one. This is I'm amazed that these guys have finally been caught, because they had a really clever little scam. It's a little bit like the OneCoin scam, where they had their own platform. Their coin didn't really trade for ages anywhere else. It only traded in their little platform, so the price was what they said it was. And their whole scam was they reckoned they had a trading bot that could trade Bitcoin every day and make 1% gains. Just 1%. And so what you had to do is you had to give them your Bitcoin. They would then give you BitConnect token instead. But then they would be trading on your behalf. So you would get 1% interest every single day, guaranteed. Wasn't even like sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. 1% guaranteed. And bizarrely, like 1% a day doesn't sound like a lot, and that's why it kind of convinced a lot of people.
It's the classic chessboard thing, isn't it?
Yeah, but the problem is when you work out 1% over about 200 days, if you start with 10 grand, after 200 days of 1% gains, I think you've got like 10 billion.
Yeah.
So clearly it can't go up by that much. Like 1% a day is crazy. Like the APR per year, I think that works out like 30,000% or something. So they're basically, and this is guaranteed. It was programmed into the website. And because BitConnect wasn't a real coin, your BitConnect was going up by 1% a day. Like you could see it going up and up. And then they just had the pound or US dollar equivalent next to it. So everyone got, and this is the great thing about any good old Ponzi, when you start the Ponzi off, you had to put your money in and then commit it for a number of months. So the way they did it, and this scam only lasted 6 months.
I can't touch it for a certain amount of time.
Yeah. Anyone that says that, like, if it's a trading, so what they did is people put the first people that came in, put their money in for like 2 weeks or a month or something. But then your money, if you put, say, 10 grand in for a month, you'd get 20 grand out. But if you put 10 grand in for 6 months, you would get like 200 grand out. So what the genius of this scam was, the Ponzi scheme, is a lot of people went in, didn't trust it, thought this is too good to be true. I'll put 10 grand in, but I'm going to trust it for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And what their genius was, is obviously as people were coming in, they paid the old people with the new people's money. But those first set of people did turn 10 grand into 20, and they all just went crazy. They would then grab their 20 grand, reinvest it.
Hit me again. Yeah.
Now I'm going to turn this. Now I've turned 10 into 20. Now I'm going to turn 20 into 400 or whatever it was. And of course, just as like no one else got paid out, right? Anyone in the first month, no one after that got paid. The website disappears. But they made off with billions. This was like back in 2017, as well as Ripple and XRP. This was the biggest one. This went completely nuts. So many people are buying into it. There's loads of memes around this.
Probably Ripple's on the uptake as well. Once again, not a shitcoin holder of Ripple, but friends that have got that saying that it's up. Well, as is everything apparently.
It's still down from 2017 though, because they're all time. I think they're about $1 now. They were $3 in 2017.
Yeah, I think that was it. It reached $1.
So they're up in terms of like this year. It went down to about 10p. So yeah, they 10x this year technically, but they're still 66% down. Like, so it still doesn't mean you're up, mate. It just means you're not as far down. Like, just fucking sell that shit. Because if obviously like Bitcoin is up 250% from 2017, they're still down 66%. That's their definition of doing well, being down 66%. Then you need to check the rest.
You always hold hope, don't you? And that's probably the thing, isn't it? It's just holding hope of, oh, it's nearly there.
Yeah, it's like just admitting you're wrong, just sell it. But yeah, it's good. These BitConnect guys have finally been charged by the SEC with $2 billion of crypto fraud, which it's taken them 4 years to do it, but fair play, they've done it.
Was it tracking them down?
I don't know. Actually, I don't know if are they even American citizens. I didn't think they were.
It doesn't really say.
But it is a kind of like standard, you know. If something's too good to be true, it is a scam, and you know people fall for it again and again. It goes. You look back into history, and it's happening with like the potions. It was happening with like turning stuff to gold. It's always happened.
You always think, oh, this time it's got to be right. They look legit. The website looks great. There's so many people that are on there. And I think, you know, the greater the credibility that they paint, and obviously the gains as well, just captures people each and every time. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They're just going to fall for it each and every time.
Oh, weirdly, this founder, I've just Googled this guy's name. I don't know if this LinkedIn account is legit. It might be wrong. It literally has his current position as BitConnect, which you wouldn't have that on there, would you?
No.
It says he's in India and he studied in Greenwich, London. So, yeah, I think this guy, he's got an Indian name, so it does look like he might be Indian, which is weird because obviously the SEC in America, they do seem like they're the police of the world, right? America. Because the SEC is an American institution. So I suppose they can claim that there was a crime committed because American citizens did invest in that thing. So American citizens were harmed in the fraud. But the fact the guy's Indian means that if they actually want to prosecute, you know, the crime did not actually take place in America, they're going to need to get India to go along with this, unless they manage to catch this guy whilst he was in America.
Who was that other guy? Do you remember?
I'm sure he was in America. I'm sure he mysteriously appeared in America.
They asked Batman to bring him over.
Do you remember the other guy as well, who Mrs. No Show said that she met as well? Because she also said that I met him, and that he stole money from the company and was currently missing. I forgot his name, but there's another guy as well. Yeah, I think this was it, Sept.
Yeah, that rings a bell.
Yeah, I think it was him.
Satish Kumbani.
But yeah, he is showing on there as well. Yeah, I'm just looking at him now.
What, of another scam?
No, of on LinkedIn is it's only got like 10 connections, so maybe.
That's what makes it look like someone's just created it for a joke, haven't they?
Yeah.
But yeah, he seems to be Indian. But yeah, it's good that he got caught. But yeah, unfortunately, I doubt, as with all these things, he'll probably get some. Well, if he's still got his money, then quite often what tends to happen is the SEC will settle out of court. So that he might get fined 200 million, 300 million, something like that. And what's nothing? He made off with 2 billion. So that's just making crime pay. And even if they do manage to give him some prison time, I would still think that it will be less than 10 years. And the people that got defrauded will likely not get their money back.
It's a classic as well. For every day that they hold him, whether it's like in detention and then obviously into prison, Bitcoin goes up. So to your point, yeah, we'll have a little bit of money. That's so good. How much do you want? Because I'm sure that'll just be the interest that I've made on the time that you've kept me here and the inconvenience while I go off and spend these other billions after you've released me.
The thing is, if he's a shitcoiner as well, and he had that $2 billion, he had $2 billion, and the BitConnect guys were sensible, right? They knew their coin was worthless, so to buy their coin, the only coin they accepted was Bitcoin in exchange. So he had $2 billion worth of Bitcoin.
Yeah, there's the magic trick right there.
Yeah, whenever a shitcoiner will only exchange his shitcoin for your Bitcoin, you know what? You know what's up, right? They're not
but
really.
You don't know what's up when you could first come in. That's the thing. You don't know what's up.
I'm pretty sure that someone convinced me back in 2007 to buy XRP, and you had to convert to Bitcoin. So this is where I put like, it was like 50 quid in or something. And it's where I'm struggling to get the Bitcoin out, the 50 quid's worth. It's sitting on that platform, but you had to buy it in
Bitcoin. They pulled your pants down and touched you as well.
that was something separate where I paid. But it was back like 4 years ago, and it was where you couldn't buy XRP or Ripple, whatever it was called, in many places. So yeah. I have got the Bitcoin sitting there in my account, but it's due with the Google Authenticator, which it wasn't playing ball last time I tried it.
Yeah, there was a weird little Ripple cult in our business, wasn't there? Because the thing is, like, Ripple was they were very clever in the fact that they pitched it as like, no, this is the regulated Bitcoin. This is the one. Crypto is a thing, but it needs to be regulated, and the banks need to trust it. And Ripple was the one. And I think and obviously we worked in regulation, didn't we? And they were finance guys, business guys, and so it just sounds like, oh yeah, Bitcoin is for the plebs and for the drug dealers, but Ripple has a load of suits behind it. This is the one that's going to get adopted. Romantically, you want that one to be adopted, but let's be real, it's not. This is going to be the one that gets adopted, and that story really hit home. And obviously, like in reality, no, if the banks are going to have a choice, they're going to accept none of them, and they're going to keep their own coin. Like, so turning up in a suit, going, Mr. Bank Officer, your money's worthless. This is the new money. They're going to go, fuck off, mate. Like, no, like, why would we use your coin that you can print more of? 90% of the supply of.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly the same, but I bought like 50 quid's worth. So it's a silly investment, or rather gamble, because it wasn't an investment, was it?
No.
I got my money back anyway, because I think it was roughly about the same price.
One of the points I put on here as well in terms of the bullish case for Bitcoin, Vijay Boyapati actually touches on it. And it's rightly so, just coming back to what you said there, Mr. All-In, about you don't want to be associated with the coin that's classed with drug dealers and people moving money illegally. You want to be associated with the regulated coin. And
so we don't want to be in fiat.
Exactly. But what was interesting is he talked about it, and it wasn't the fact that it was like the fact that people were dealing drugs or buying drugs. It was actually, they did this and they used Bitcoin because of the permission. They were able to get what they wanted from their own kind of permission, essentially. So when they were buying whatever they were buying in terms of recreational drugs or whatever, if they wanted to buy it with fiat and they were trying to do it with PayPal would have been immediately rejected the payment, and therefore it's like straight off the books, no. Whereas with Bitcoin, it just allowed self-sovereignty. So straight away, okay, I'm in control of what I buy. So it gave them the permission, because it was permissionless, to be able to do so. And I think that's why. But of course, the mainstream media and the narrative that was painted was, oh, it's only people that are doing it with drugs, and so on. And so again, it kind of felt ew, I don't really want to go down that route. I'll stay away from that Bitcoin thing.
Yeah. And it's a good video. You've only just recently added it, haven't you? So I didn't
Yeah,
have time to watch
yeah,
it. But the article, The Bullish Case for Bitcoin, is probably the article. If you're going to point
yeah.
to one, that is the killer article. And obviously that he turned that into a book, didn't he? The Bullish
Mm,
Bitcoin became a book. And
yeah.
yeah, it's
I added it mainly and I won't go into too much detail about it because I don't want to do it a disjustice, because it's probably a podcast within itself, where if we were all to sit down, read it, and obviously watch the interviews around VJ Boyer Party talking about it, which I also did as well. So Peter McCormack interviewed him in December 2018, and they were talking about the 4 different tranches of the book as well, which was really interesting because he essentially graded Bitcoin against everything else, as you do, in terms of comparing where you should be putting your money. And it's so good just to sit back and watch and hear now, 7th of the 9th, 2021, listening to it back then, because everything is playing out or has played out. And in the bullish case for Bitcoin, he talks about when whole countries will then adopt Bitcoin as their legal tender. And there was no inkling whatsoever of El Salvador or any other country going down that route. And here we are right now on the day, and he predicted it, and so on. And I think the bullish case for Bitcoin is really worthwhile listening to, because ultimately, whilst it feels alien to think and fathom it, but the price will be extortionate. We're talking about 250 by the end of this year, and maybe $1 million a coin. I guarantee it's probably going to be 10 times, if not 100 times that. And again, it just feels like, yeah, whatever. But it will be in our lifetimes.
So the bullish case of Bitcoin, it's a podcast?
It's an article. So it's an article, but then what I've linked in the show notes or in our agenda is the podcast where somebody's read the article. So it's like an extended article. It's about a 40-minute read or so. Okay, and so it's really good. So it's essentially a free audio book.
So it's one which I missed, because I think I looked at it the other day.
Yeah, so I added it quite late.
So it's one which I'll definitely have to have a listen to.
Yeah, it's one of those where certainly, again, it's probably one for us to revisit on another podcast once again to really do it justice. But VJ is he's got a day job, he's got a wife and kids, and I think he's about 42, 43. And it took him 6 months to write the article. And what was really interesting is when I was listening to another interview with him, is that when he was a kid, he lived in Australia and with his mum and dad. So he moved from India to Australia with his mum and dad. And he said he watched his dad convert their money and their assets back into gold. And then on the plane, he remembered his dad being really like apprehensive that he was carrying gold going back to India, because of course, like that's how he was doing it. That's how people carried their wealth. And as you think about it now, it's going to be really silly, isn't it? Like it feels alien, and it feels silly that people used to have coal fires and or even I'll bring it more up to date, used to use a Nokia phone you know, a Nokia flip phone or an Ericsson flip phone, etc. It's like, what? You used to do that? Yeah. And people have done that for over 5,000 years in terms of gold being that store of value and how they kind of transport value. Whereas now in the digital age, just remember 24 words or even 12 words. Yeah. And then bam, you can transport your wealth nice and easy without that fear.
And just to like be clear on that as well, the fear comes from the government. He was scared of going through customs and having that confiscated from him, because again, it wouldn't have mattered where it came from. The government can just indiscriminately take it, and then you have to take the government to court to prove that that money was yours. And yeah, if you're coming through borders, and straight away you'll be treated like a criminal.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the thing, like, and then none of those laws have changed. We have not evolved past that. All that's happened is that we've created an asset that you can go through borders and they can't confiscate it from you, because you can just have 24 words in your head written down, whatever. And then you can just pop them onto a new ledger when you're through safe. And this is the thing, yeah. So if that family had Bitcoin back then, I don't know when he was emigrating or moving from country to country, but now there'll be families doing exactly that right now, and they will not need to sweat it. There will not be a risk of them having their life savings taken off them, because they can just be smart, spread a couple of words amongst their luggage or something, walk straight through. All their metal detectors won't go off. They won't be clinking with gold coins or jewels or diamonds on them or whatever, anything like that. Don't need to do it. Because the thing is, like, taking wealth from one like jurisdiction to another is difficult. Like, bank accounts don't work, especially if you're emigrating and not coming back. Like, yeah, fine, your bank will work well when you go abroad, but if they know that you've left and your citizenship changes, your bank account will get closed behind you and you'll lose access to it. So you have to like take it out of that account and put it in another one, and there's taxes involved. It's difficult. Bitcoin fixes.
Even mentioned that he remembers it being difficult transferring money between the same banks, but just in different locations. So let's use HSBC, and you wanted a HSBC to another HSBC. That was difficult. Yeah. And so it actually prompted me when reading and listening to it to be like, I need to remember these words. And so I've turned my words into pictures, and I guarantee, boys, if you haven't done it, it is so much easier to remember them in and out of sequence. Like if you said, obviously, you know, a number, I've got that number in my head associated to a picture out of 24, and I'll be like, yep, that's what it is right there. Whereas if it was just a list and a text of words, because as we know, it doesn't happen slow, it happens overnight, or it's super, super quick. So it's just like, right, I'm prepared, you know, like they're coming tomorrow, or they're coming right now, and I'm ready. And so, yeah, the 24, I promise you, it's so much easier.
That is pretty genius, actually. Because that's
on a single sheet of A4, by the way.
That's ace, yeah. Because literally, you need to almost be prepared, don't you? Like, just in the worst case scenario, let's say you're just out for a drive and something happens, and you just need to go and get on a plane now and leave.
Yeah,
I couldn't do that right now because I don't know what my words are. I'd have to go at least try and get them.
And that was it. That was what I was thinking.
Like a couple of days. That's going to take me a couple of days to do, and that might be too late. I might already be arrested at that point.
Too late. You're gone. You know, so from there, I know all of the pictures, and obviously I even coded the pictures. So it wasn't just like, you know, a picture of something. It was like, oh, no, I'll code the picture so it's not even in that as well. So when I think about the picture, it's then something else. So if you saw the pictures, you wouldn't necessarily think, oh, okay, I know what that word is.
Oh, nice. Genius.
Yeah. And so it was super. I mean, I only did that 2 days ago, but again, managed to think and remember the words so easy. So I'm ready for you, bitches. Take me, test me. So yeah, I don't want to be hanging off any planes.
Yeah, it's a dangerous thing to be tested. I'll be like,
exactly.
what's number 5?
Yeah, what's number 5?
Number
eh?
7.
You know, what's number 5? Eh? Yeah.
Get 3 every time we go out, and then eventually I got all 21. And then you also linked. I like this podcast as well. It was Lynn, wasn't it, talking about the risks of Bitcoin with Peter McCormack as well, and they literally spent the whole hour and a half or whatever just talking about why Bitcoin could fail.
Yeah. So again, it probably one where we look into it a little bit more. I don't want to really ruin the celebrations of the 21, but what was interesting is Lynn. I'm as anyone that really listens to this show, I rinse YouTube, like rinse YouTube. I actually found out that I've been a YouTuber for 15 years. So it came out in like in 2006. And so by 2007, I had a YouTube account. And, or no, 2005, 2006, it came out, and I had a YouTube account, and I've been, solidly watching YouTube ever since. Lynn said she only bought in 2020.
Yeah.
And that really astounded me. I was just like, oh, wow. So her and Sailor, but you would expect them, or the way they talk about it, like they were 2011 OGs. And so that was really interesting. But what I liked about it is the fact that obviously she's changed her position, because she was quite bullish against Bitcoin, or maybe not bullish against it, maybe cautionary is the right word.
She was neutral, didn't she?
Yes, just neutral. Just
wasn't pro or anti, but you need to be pro it to be buying that asset. And she just didn't. She literally said like her investment thesis hadn't been proven out. This could just go to zero. But then I think once it recovered to 10K for the second time, it was like, oh, this actually is a thing now. This is not a bubble that just went from like 0 to 20K, and now it's just going to die out to zero. Once it pumped back to 10K, and then you see all the businesses coming in, all the people talking about it, she was like, oh, my thesis essentially has been invalidated, and this one has now been proven that this asset is what it says it is. It is a store of value. So it's weird. Once it hit the 10K mark, I think both Sailor and Lynn both came in at about the 10 to 15K mark.
Yeah.
That was the tipping point. 10K was when they went, this is legit, and they all came in. And then
do you know what happened? Sailor saw that I was interested.
Yeah, you brought in 11, didn't you?
Yeah, it was about the same time as Sailor. I didn't realize why it was rocketing at the time. Yeah. Because I was reading more and more and buying more and more, and I was actually buying at the same time as Sailor, so I was in that massive increase caused by him buying his billions.
I was probably around a similar time as well, actually. Looking at
I think you're about a few weeks or a month after, because that's when I started talking about reading a Bitcoin standard to you, and I think you probably bought in a similar pattern to me. But I was just like, if Dr. 10%'s buying, Michael Saylor's buying, so is Lynn Alden.
That's the one. I was late 2017 in terms of Bitcoin, and mid-August in terms of ETH.
Yeah, still pretty good gains on that.
And
then we got.
But just on that as well, sorry, it's probably worth what I liked about it is the fact that it's always good to know why people are anti-Bitcoin, and they went through each of the points, like quantum computers, a 51% attack, and then of course the fact that it doesn't scale, but people haven't really done their research in terms of understanding what the Lightning Network is. And so, each and every little bit of FUD that is out there, Lynn has addressed. And you only need to listen to Lynn for about 5 to 10 seconds. And as the comments in YouTube says, you just get smart listening to her, which is fantastic.
I've put it on I've put on my list on Google Podcasts now. So 2 of those, one's an interview for Bullish Case for Bitcoin with VJ, where he addresses the points, and then the other one's the Lynn Alden Bitcoin risk assessment. So that's some great listening, which I've got lined up.
Yeah.
It is interesting. I always like it, even when Bitcoiners try and have a negative podcast where they talk about where Bitcoin can fail. Ultimately, it just ends up being bullish because the top five points are so easily just squashed, and then you're left at the end going, so there is no negative side, is there? There literally is no downside. This is only going up. This is up only.
Yeah.
Well, according to whatever it is, Treble 78, it costs $45 to send a few bucks.
This is a perfect time, I think, just to switch to my favorite tweet of the week, which I think it was in. Did I put it in FUD of the week? Yeah, it's in FUD of the week. Yeah, and this is from a guy called fucking Josh Marshall. He's got 365,000 followers. I don't know who the fuck this guy is, but yeah, whatever. He's kind of like some weird historian that has a load of followers, and he tweeted this. It's remarkable. They really think Bitcoin is empowering millions of people in emerging markets, broken economies, and dictatorships. Lol. Like high school libertarianism meets Dungeons and Dragons 5th level warlock. Bitcoin is the new civil rights movement. He just like dunks on us so fucking hard, calling us LARPers and like playing Dungeons and Dragons, but with money. He just like laughs at us. And obviously, and this was in response, by the way, to Alex Gladstein, who is he works for, I think it's the Human Rights Organization. And so he has been helping people in the third world for his entire career. He is like, and he's a devout Bitcoiner now. And he uses it purely for helping people in struggling countries. And he's currently in El Salvador right now. I know there's videos of him, buying things with Bitcoin and all that. So out of all the people to dunk on, picking on Alex, that's like picking on Saifedean, it's like these guys are well read. There's loads of Bitcoiners that will tweet silly shit that you can easily make fun of, but to pick Alex and then he just dunks on him and gives him chapter and verse as to why Bitcoin is going to help emerging markets. It is counteracting inflation, and if you think we're LARPing,
live actions doing it right now.
Yeah,
I saw some of the comments and they were comparing Bitcoin to cruise ships.
What?
His followers just saying they are a waste of energy and so on.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And I was just like, I've never heard that comparison, but it's a start by some neckbeard.
It's just every week someone seems to volunteer, like someone with a big following dunks on Bitcoin and they just get completely invaded and get really fucking stupid. And but it's weird because if you check you check up on these guys, sometimes they just double down on it and they don't change their minds. They're just so, it's weird. People that I think have a lot of followers and potentially even a lot of money, they just decide that Bitcoin's a scam and then they just never go back. And regardless of how wrong they get proven.
Yeah, it's a classic, isn't it? They just dig their grave and they're just not prepared to come out of it.
We know people like that personally as well, double down that Bitcoin is useless.
Yeah.
And I think we finished this segment by just saying, have fun staying poor.
Exactly. Because weirdly, on the energy thing, that literally the next story is the Belarus president admitting that there's a load of excess energy generated in the country. And this is exactly what Bitcoiners are talking about. Because where it's good to create energy is actually in like rural areas where there's not many people, and built up areas is not a good place to put a fucking power plant. No one's a power plant next to them. You need a lot of space and it creates a lot of kind of fumes and all that. So it tends to be like energy gets created out in the sticks, especially if it's renewable energy. And he's come out and gone, there's loads of excess energy being created. We're not using it. And he just went, maybe we'll do some mining. Maybe we'll mine some Bitcoin. Although he actually said maybe we'll mine cryptocurrency, which is unfortunate. But
it would be clever because it's a use of excess energy. So you think that's got no value to it, because I'm guessing it's waste. I don't really know too much about the supply, but from my understanding, it'd be wasted. So why not? Have some miners set up and mine. And also with Belarus being, I suppose, a smaller country and under the cosh of the American media, then potentially it could be a way of him getting ahead.
Yeah. And ironically, this is never factored in to when people look at the amount of energy that Bitcoin currently uses, a lot of it is energy that wouldn't have been created and wouldn't have done anything else, or it would have been created anyway and would have just been let off into the atmosphere. So,
but he does sound like he's on the way to having a heart attack soon.
yeah, yeah, he definitely looks like he might be having a stroke or something. Then maybe he needs to get double vaxxed, and then that will sort him out. But but it's interesting because he doesn't seem like he hasn't really been pro Bitcoin before, but he's just gone, look, there's excess energy floating about. Why don't we mine some Bitcoin and make money out of it?
He's very much an enemy of the West, though.
Yeah,
but he's backed by Russia, so they won't touch him. Which I think raises a question about Russia. What's their position around this? You never know what they're up to.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're big. They're definitely into their crypto. There's back in like 2016, they were having meetings with Vitalik because obviously Vitalik's the founder of Ethereum. He's Russian. So almost definitely they have a nice big bag of Ethereum, and I would guess. And Vitalik ultimately was a core developer on Bitcoin as well. So I'm sure his advice to the Russian government would have been get a big bag of Bitcoin. He probably just gave them a big bag of Ethereum. And so they're probably bag holding that and probably pretty happy with their return so far.
Yeah, I'm sure he did whatever he could for Putin.
Yeah, well, he's not the kind of guy that you walk away with. If he'd have gone first a cheeky million Bitcoin, he's not asking. That was an order.
So does this leave us with the final one?
I think, so Neverlook's talking, but we can't hear him.
Sorry. Yeah, I was actually thinking about this as well in terms of the countries, because just going back to the fact that China stopped mining, even though they were in a really strong position because they had the majority of miners. And then maybe that position has swung back to the US because they picked up the free sats because they've got the majority of miners. But then also the countries that are buying and maybe not buying as well. So, UK, whilst they are a superpower right now, on the Bitcoin scene, they're nowhere to be seen. But in the background, it's said that Russia is certainly going to be doing some form of mining. They might have Bitcoin on their, on their balance sheets. Also, North Korea, it's a way for them to kind of get around sanctions as well. And so ultimately, I would be really, really interested in seeing how all of this plays out on the country level. Certainly, with the fact that Vitalik is Russian, we've seen interviews with him and Putin, and so he's super close. They've got a direct inside line, and so Russia ultimately would always love to be number one. And so it kind of makes me think, like, China, you were doing so well. Why did you stop? And then they stopped, they dropped. Do they think that maybe because they have what maybe become the new reserve currency in the yuan? Okay, it's okay, we'll overtake the dollar. It's just really interesting to see how it might play out.
Yeah. Do you want to go on to our and finally story of the day?
And finally,
it was deleted. When I went to it on Reddit. So
it was, yeah. I don't know why it deleted it, so I had to find a new link. Yeah, there's a new link in the agenda now that links.
Okay.
Oh.
There's a new link. So it's a 5.5 foot long whale penis sells for $6,000, and there's a great picture of some random guy, Mark Wilkinson, just standing there holding a 5.5 foot long whale penis, and it
looks like a carrot.
Yeah.
What is it? Or parsnip?
Everybody.
What on earth do you do with it?
You just display it. It's like it's like an NFT, right? You just flex. Like when someone says, like, when you now can go down the pub, can't you? I wish I saw this, I would have brought this, because then you can actually say, I have the biggest dick in the world. When anyone doubts you, you're like, come to my house and I'll show you.
Well, wouldn't it start?
Room,
wouldn't it start rotting and stink out your flat?
No, it's stuffed, isn't it? So they've done the whole what's it called? Like,
so he said
animal.
Fishermen and sailors used to store tobacco and large penises to keep it moist during long trips.
How much this is like old like wives' tales, but what's it called? You can embalm it, or like it's just like having a stuffed cat or a stuffed like head on the wall, isn't it? But it's a stuffed penis. Like, why not?
Okay.
I think when I saw the price of this, I both thought it was really expensive, but then also really cheap. I don't know where I am with it. I don't know if this is a fair value for a 5.5 foot penis, but I'm just confused. I both want it and then don't want it.
So if someone stuck for a gift for you in the future for a big milestone, then stuffed penis would work.
Man, I would be so happy with this. Someone bought me a 5.5 foot whale penis. I'd be so happy with
that. For the man they think that has everything, he has no whale penis.
This is like one of the reasons. There's a few reasons which are quite bizarre of why I want Bitcoinization. One of them being, Matt, I'd buy it for your birthday for your 40th. Be like, what's this? Is it really? And it's like, unwrap it. Oh my god, I love it. That would definitely be on my list of things to do if we did get to that point.
Yeah, it would be funny, but yeah. But yeah, I think this perfectly goes along with the NFT thing, right? It's like it's kind of some form of art. It's obviously quite a large amount of money, but in reality, like, yeah, people are buying JPEGs for $100,000. Then why? I think $6,000 for a whale penis is super cheap.
It's just ridiculous, isn't it? Absolutely ridiculous.
Should we leave it there?
Yeah, I think that's the end of the show.
There you have it. So, episode 21 available on all podcast streaming services, from Anchor to your iOS and Android and so on. Where else can we be found? YouTube.
It's on Google. It's on Google for podcasts, which is what I've started using.
Yeah. So the 4Bs brought to you by Mr. All-In, Dr. Evil 10%, So Never Look, and she was here, but she was never here, Mrs. No Show. There you go.
At home drinking his Starbucks.
Sponsored by Starbucks. Yeah, fellow plebs, if you want to hear us, then yeah, tune in.